Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast. And today's a special opportunity for me, special in several ways. One is, like usual, I get to talk to an amazing human being who's making a difference in the lives of people and groups one day at a time, especially through the summer. This is an episode that if you are an outdoorsman, if you're a sportsman, or if you like fishing like I love to fish, you are going to want to listen to this. In fact, it's probably going to get your juices flowing so much that you're going to want to go out and cast a fly and do something fun in the next minutes after hearing it. So today, super cool show. You're going to want to spread the love on this one. Send it to all those that you know that love outdoors, love fishing, in particular fly fishing, because my guest today is an amazing, incredible guide of fly fishing. His name is Lance Dutton, and he's with the Flaming Gorge Resort in Dutch John, Utah. And so I cannot wait for this discussion. Lance, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, great to be here.
So we got to talk fishing. So you are a fishing guide.
Yes.
And can you explain to someone who's never had a fly fishing guide what that is all about? What's the purpose? Why does someone want a guide?
Well, we just have local knowledge, we know where the fish are, we know how to get to them, we know what they're eating. We just know how to get you on those fish. A lot of guys come out and kind of do it on their own. And it takes them a certain amount of time just to kind of learn the river, because every river's different. I mean, when I went from Alaska to Green River, I was like learning to fish all over again. But that's kind of the big advantage of using a guide is he knows what's going on. He knows where to put you and how to take care of you.
I love it. Let's rewind the clock a little bit. How does one get into fishing guiding? Is it a thing where you just always grew up fishing and it was just so amazing it pulled you your entire life? Or did you say, because I've met with other guides who have said, man, I was in the corporate world, I was doing this, that, and the other thing, and I needed to change a pace, and this is what I love to do, so I fell in love that way. What was your trail to get here?
Gosh, the journey started back, I cut meat for a long time.
As a butcher?
As a butcher, and again, my whole life I've kind of been working with the outdoors, hunters coming in and bringing their stuff in. That's what we did, wild game. But as a kid, we fished all the time. That's it. Every weekend we were fishing and fishing and fishing.
And fly fishing or different kinds?
I didn't start fly fishing really till I was probably around 13. And I can get you kind of a cool story on that one. Dave Cook's used to be a sporting goods store down in Denver.
Gart Brothers and Dave Cook's, remember?
And they had a contest every week, right? It was a big fish contest. And if you brought your fish in, they would, you'd stack them up, and the biggest guy won this, and you would win trips and fly rods. So that's how I got a 24-inch, 8-pound, 15-ounce brown trout out of Spinney Reservoir.
Yes.
When I think I was 12 or 13, and I end up entering that fish in the contest, and I took like third, I think.
Wow.
And I won my first fly rod and reel and all that stuff. And growing up, my dad also liked to gold pan and whatnot. And then once I bought that fly rod, I won that fly rod, I was done with the gold panning. And I remember my first fish on the Tomahawk River there in Fairplay.
Yes.
We used to dig for gold in there, and I said, I'm done. I'm going fishing. And I just tied on this little gray ugly and drifted it right underneath this tree limb coming out, and boom, that was my first fish on a fly rod, and I was kind of hooked.
You were hooked
ever
from there
since then. And then growing up, I never thought of actually being a guide. Like when you're younger, really someone's going to pay me to fish every day, right? No way, man. So anyway, I met a gentleman that run a lodge in Alaska when I was working at the meat market. And I was a seasonal kind of deal, and in the summer times I had open. So he goes, I might need a guy to come out and work with you, right? Or work with me. And I said, well, let me know. 2 weeks later, we shook hands. He goes, yep, I need you. And I shipped out to Alaska, and that's I didn't really even expect to be a guide there. I just wanted to go, and I smoked all their fish for them because I had a background in that, and I worked on outboard engines and maintained equipment, generators, blah, blah, blah. That was kind of my deal. And then the next year, he says, hey, you want to try and guide? And I was like, well, heck yeah. So I went and got my Coast Guard's license, and that's it, man. I've been doing it ever since. I guess probably a good, I want to say 13, 14 years ago I started.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And when you started guiding, was it different in being a guide to help someone else have a great experience versus you having a great experience on the river? And how does now that apply to you? Like, what's a great day for a guide?
Okay. So honestly, I have 2 boys and then 2 step girls, and I was pretty much guiding them the whole time anyway. So that kind of got me primed. But it's just fishing with folks is awesome. Like I love seeing them succeed, especially you have first timers when they come out. That's the best when they come out and are expecting not a great day or whatever. They're like, we just want to have fun, and that's kind of me. I just like to have fun. And so you can get a newbie on a fly rod, get a few fish, and maybe a big one, and then you could just see it. It just lights them up, and they're it changes them.
Yes.
Forever. Then they're hooked.
Is that your big joy, Lance? Is seeing the joy in others, or is there something that connects you to the outdoors that's part of your joy? Because you do it year after year, and I'm telling you, for those people watching or listening, now Lance, there's a couple types of guides, and I've had the beautiful fortune of fishing with guides several times in my life on boats, wading, trolling, like different ways. And so Lance is predominantly focuses on drift fishing, floating a boat down a river, but you oar the thing, you got to row it, and it's a lot of work. So what are the things, the intangibles that just attract you to this profession every single year?
Well, the biggest one obviously is my office is the best no matter where I go. Alaska was phenomenal. You know what I mean? The Green River. I left Alaska to go to the Green River. I fished there one time with a guy that I fished with in Alaska, and I worked there the next year. I love it. It's really remote, but it's close enough to where you can get somewhere here and there, it's the outdoors is great. And then the next thing, like you said, is I love catching fish, but I love catching you fish just as much or even more, because I had to teach you how to do it, and you know what I mean. You go through, and sometimes it'll work perfect. You see a little riffle and then coming off a little drop off or something. You're like, put it right here, let it drop, and that guy comes up and hammers it. One time it was like, okay, get ready, 3, 2, 1, chomp, and right as I said chomp, this thing came up and hit just a giant stubby chubby, and that was probably one of the coolest. I'll never forget that one. But
that's calling your shot.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, and I'll say, I just Babe Ruth that one. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But that's really kind of, because I coached a lot for my boys and stuff growing
Sports.
up. So helping people really is kind of my jam. Like I love being outdoors, and I love being my own kind of boss. Yeah. The folks out at Flaming Gorge, he just tells me, just go fish, man. That's all we need you to do. As long as you show up on time, you get them home safe, and you have fun. That's all I care about.
Yes.
So you're kind of your own boss. You're out in the middle of nowhere, in God's country.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
So much. Yeah. You said something a minute ago that I think people may overlook or not think about, and that is the safety aspect of what your job is. Because while you're not going down any class 4 rapids, you're not there to be a rafting guide. You're there to be a fishing guide. So you're paying attention to the water and all that kind of thing. But there's a lot. You have to take the safety of your passengers first. And so describe what a guide, because people may think, oh, I know how to fish, so I can be a guide. No, there's certifications, there's all kinds of stuff that you need to know. Explain what it is like, the background to become a guide, besides knowing how to fish.
Right, yeah. That's a huge part of it, is knowing them to recognize when something's going on or whatnot, and I've got stories for that. But having first aid and outdoor kind of first aid skills is huge, and you have to have that to be a guide, right?
Yeah. What's one of those stories?
So let's see. I'm trying to think. What's the? I'm trying to think of the one. I had to pull a guy out of the river one time. We're coming down the river, and we're going through Secret Riffle, and his buddy kind of hit a rock sideways, and they were older guys,
Now, were they in your boat or
no?
separate?
They were in someone else's
okay.
boat. I was pulled over, rigging up a line. We maybe just broke one off or something. I don't remember, but he hit a rock sideways. There's a lot of rocks. Actually, it's you got to be on your toes. It's not a really hard river to row, but there's one big one in the middle called Red Creek, and when it's really flowing, I think it's a 4, 3.5, 4.
Wow, on the rapid scale.
Yeah,
that's stout.
It's pretty crazy. And then low water, it's super rocky, so you've got to have your wits about you, and that's just experience going through all that stuff. But so this gentleman, he and his buddy went bloop right over the bow. We watched him go over, and he kind of held on the rocks right there and stood for a while, and he tried to swim it out, and then we just told him, roll over on your back, head upstream, and he listened to everything.
Yeah.
And now just start backstroking towards the bank, and he was probably in his 70s.
Wow.
And we're like late April maybe, so the water's still right around 40 something.
Pretty
so
high.
It's really cold.
High and cold.
Yeah, really cold. And so actually the guest I was with was a off-duty Marine, and he basically ran down and he went all the way up, chest deep, waiting for him to come in. And so I went up, and I was going to try, because he was holding on to it for a while. I went to try and go get him, and then he fell, and then down the river he started going. So then I went and got the throw bag, and by the time I got down there, my guest had grabbed onto him way out there. He goes, and they're trying to work. So I went out, and then we drug him back in.
Wow.
And then you got to know what to do now, right? The guy didn't have a weighting belt on, so his waders were full of water.
We were going to just talk about that.
Yeah, he couldn't stand up. Like, he was completely exhausted. Waders full of water. Just sat there, and we tried to just sit there for a minute, catch your breath, and then get his waders off. They luckily had nice dry clothes for changing in there, which is really important in that situation, is having spare clothes and getting you dry and warm. That's the big thing. So yeah, we got his waders off, changed him into some dry clothes. We sat there with him for a while and made sure he wasn't going. And it's not a very busy river that early, so we were one of the only guys on the river. So
thank goodness you were there.
Yes,
because he would not have made it.
I don't think he would have made it otherwise.
Well, I'll tell you, for those of you that have never fly fished, if most of the time in fly fishing we're wearing waders that they're called chest waders that come up chest high, and then they have straps, overalls that take them up. And when Lance was talking earlier about a wading belt, it's a belt that goes around your waist so that if you fall, the water kind of gets trapped or stopped at the belt level, so it's only going chest high. Yep. Whereas if you don't have that, you fill up all the way to your toes, and then you become more of like an anchor than a bobber.
Yeah, like a rock. Yep.
Like a rock.
And then a lot of times you wear that. We have life jackets always on the A and the B section, but you always wear a jacket over the top too, so that actually helps keep the water from getting in your waders as well.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't really want to tuck those rain jackets and most of your jackets in the waders, especially in a situation like that.
Yeah. Here's my weirdest fishing story ever as far as first aid goes. Actually, there's two of them. One is tragic, and the other one is tragically funny. The tragic one is when I was a kid, my folks decided to go to Montana, so we were driving. My dad enjoyed fishing, and so we had stopped where a river went under the highway, right? And it was a single lane highway, so we stopped and pulled over, and my dad just wanted to fish. And my dad wasn't a fly fisherman, so he would just take grasshoppers or whatever and just throw it in the river and do his thing. Well, he had asked if we would go get some food at the next town and then come back. So my mom and I went to do that. And when we came back, it turned out that a guy that was fishing had a heart attack and passed away streamside.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've been part of that too in Alaska.
Really?
Yeah, we've had, we were the only lodge that kind of had an AED on the river.
And AED is basically a defibrillator for people that don't know that, so that if someone, their heart stops and you can't feel a rhythm or a pulse, then you put these pads in specific places and the thing tells you shock, don't shock, and that kind of thing. So that's what an AED is. So you guys had one.
Yes,
thank God.
But he just collapsed in the boat way upriver. They came down to our lodge, and we worked on him, and it was kind of a surreal situation. He didn't end up making it, but we knew how to do, and we gave him the best shot at trying to.
Yeah,
I think we just got to him a little bit too late.
Yeah. It
was like the second time in 1 year. I also, with one of the guides up in the gorge, some guys capsized their boat on the gorge up on the lake above the dam, and it was early again. It was 40 degrees, 39-degree water.
Yes,
and when the younger kid came, and we saw this boat going across the river or the lake, and his bow was way up in the air, like he needed some weight up there. And I was like, something's wrong with that boat. One thing led to another, and he made it to us, and sure enough, his boat was full of water. He had no shoes and socks on. He was shivering uncontrollably. He was out of it. And then so he told us they capsized, and he wasn't sure about his buddy, one of his buddies on the other side. So we actually just again, got him out of his wet clothes, got him in some dry clothes, took him to the marina. He's throwing up on the way there. I don't think he would have made it all the way if we didn't run into us, because it was blowing probably 20 and he was going right into the wind. And if he capsized it one more time, which you could see the water coming over the stern.
Yeah.
And so we got him and went back to his buddy, and again, he was just laying on the bank, and one of the guides from the gorge in his big boat had an AED on his boat, so we got him on our boat, hooked him up, and CPR all the way to the ramp. But yeah, again, we were just a little bit too late with him. But it did, the whole AED thing, it kept going all the way to the ramp, and it was probably a good 20, 30 minutes back to the ramp. And,
wow, that's impressive. That technology is crazy. Yeah. And thank goodness that very, very, very rarely happens. So if you're watching, don't shy away from fly fishing. It doesn't create cardiac issues, but to know that's what the guide thing is all about.
That guy was
right?
just a drowned guy. He
drowned.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. And so, but the thing is we knew what to do. Like, we didn't even talk to each other. The guide and I, we were fishing for fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And we just happened to be there at that time. We saved the one guy for sure.
Yeah.
But we knew what to do. We didn't even talk to each other. I did this, he did that.
Yeah.
We got together. The other guide came. We picked. No one even really talked to each other.
Wow.
With a short amount of time we could muster, we got him to the ramp and tried to save him. But
Well, I'll tell you, on a much lighter note, we were fishing in Canada one time, and we were on a boat, and we had flown into Canada for a guided trip. But one of the days you could fly out from the lodge and go to a little lake, and they had 2 boats there with motors, and so they would drop you off, give you a walkie-talkie, say we'll pick you up at 4:30 or whatever the time is. So there are 2 of us in each boat, and so we're fishing for walleye, and we're jigging, and we're doing all this, that. The other boat is throwing rapalas, and they were fishing for walleye as well, but we were across the lake from each other, and we get a call on the walkie-talkie, can you come over here? So we go over there, and one guy had a walleye right at the boat. The rapala flicks out, and it hits the other guy right in the lip. And when we get there, the guy's got a rapala hanging off the front of his lip, like he was hooked better than the walleye was. And so we were all sitting there trying, figuring out what to do. And as we were, you hear about this hook, how you go backwards and all that. Well, the thing had a barb on it.
Right.
And so we're like, what are we going to do? And it went all the way through. You could see the hook coming out from the bottom. And so we're like, okay, on three, we're going to do it. And, snap onto it. 1, 2, no, wait. Okay. No, wait. So we ended up taking shears and cutting the thing off.
That's exactly what,
And then he wouldn't let us pull it, so he just drank beer the rest of the day.
Wow.
And got it all kinds of numbed up. And by this time we're laughing because we know he's okay, and he's still fishing. They had to take that guy to an ER in Canada to get it surgically removed. That little hook cost him like $900.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that's my funny first aid story on the lake, but it was wild.
Taking out a few of those. There's an easy way to do that too, with the old monofilament trip. I don't know if you've seen that, but it works really well.
Man.
I've done it to my son and a couple guys on the boat. They're all, oh my God, it's in, and I'll hook it up and all right, I'm gonna count to 3. Boom,
1,
and then boom, it's out. No big deal. Easy peasy.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you have a new person, you said that you really enjoy seeing new folks on the river.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Is there a typically, like I've heard the story that women are easier to teach than men if it comes down to fly fishing learning. Is that what you found too?
Yes. Actually,
and why is that? Because I know the reason. I'm going to let you say it though.
Yes. Because okay. So there's one instance that really sticks out on my memory. It was a young daughter. She was probably 14, 15, and dad. He was dad in 40s, 50s, whatever, and he fished. He had some experience fishing, and she didn't really have any, and so. He goes, just worry about her. Like, I already know what I'm doing. I'm like, okay. So I rigged him up with my rig and everything, and I worked with the daughter, and she just listened. They just listened a lot better. They're much more patient, right? And they don't, if it's not working, they don't try to push it really hard and muscle it. You know what I mean? The guys, they have it set in their head. If I just throw it harder, it's going to go further. And you know what I mean? They forget the actual ergonomics of the rod and how they're built and all that stuff. And the ladies are just like, okay, yeah, they just do exactly what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
it. And the guys, I already know what I'm doing. And then if it's not working, I'm going to push it even harder. You know, and then he's getting frustrated, and then he's really going crazy on, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I don't know, she outfished him by, it was honestly kind of crazy. She was probably like 20-4 or something like that, you know? And,
so he was buying dinner that night.
Exactly. But the thing was, he goes, I'd rather see her catch fish all day than me anyway.
Absolutely.
That's why he said, you know what I mean? And you can kind of feel him out, and that's how you kind of do it, you know?
Yeah, that's so good.
You kind of fish with the newbie.
Mm-hmm.
Put them up on the bow so you can really help them with the cast. And I always kind of start out at the top of the river. We have a lot of stockers kind of, and some
which are fish that have been put in by a hatchery, so that for those that don't know, so they're a little easier to catch, and they're not native, and they're looking for food and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. And it's I call it preschool. You know what I mean? My whole days, I have a kind of a system, and we work these eddies, and I see how you cast and how you mend and how you set the hook and what you do after you set the hook. And with those little fish, it's easier because they don't really pull too hard, and you can kind of get a feel for how to retrieve your line, and you know, so that's kind of my thing. And I'll start up there, and then as we graduate from preschool, then we go to the next section of the river. We start fishing for bigger fish, and you know, and then we put what we learned in preschool on down. It's just, you know what I mean?
Just a graduated thing?
Yeah, exactly. By the time you get off the ramp, you're a pro already.
That's awesome. Now, when you're guiding, do you like to give history about the area, talk about fish? Do you try to connect with the people on what they love? What's your deal of making sure that someone has a great day?
Well, that's exactly the thing, is you don't really have to catch a ton of fish to have a great day if you connect with the folks in your boat. So that's honestly the biggest part of guiding to me, really. Fishing is fishing. It's going to happen one way or the other. Sometimes you catch them, sometimes you don't, you know what I mean? So you need to make it a good day no matter what the fishing is. So you find out what kind of makes them tick and what they do, and try to find a common ground between you. And the history of the river and the area is huge. I really try and do my best to learn a lot about the area that I'm in, so that I can really introduce them to what's really out there. Yes. And to focus not so much on the fishing either, and look at Whoop. It's one of the most beautiful floats in the West. I mean, it's an unbelievable
the Green River.
Yeah.
Yep, below the Flaming Gorge.
Flaming Gorge Dam. Yeah,
yep.
It's a beautiful float.
How many miles?
So there are 3 different sections that we fish. Below the dam to Little Hole is the A section, the ABC. It's just a little over 7 miles, and then you've got the B section, which is just a little bit bigger. I want to say, I don't remember exact mileage, but I think it's like 8 or 9 miles. And then the C section is up to like 13, 14 if you go all the way.
So if you do a day of fly fishing, how many? One section?
Yeah, you can split 2 sections. I'm more of a 1 section guy. You can split halfway through the A and half of the B and do 2 sections in one day, but I just feel like I'm rushed when I do it that way.
Yeah.
I'm more of a methodical guy. Like, I really just like working the water from top to bottom. And
are you a guy that you'll drift, and then you'll like, ooh, this is a great run, so we're going to pull off on this run, and we're going to fish that from the shore?
You know, we don't do a ton of wading from the boat. I do I'll re-row a lot on the A section especially. There are certain runs and riffles and stuff, you know, if you can re-row that stuff. It depends on if you're catching a fish or not. If you catch a fish, I'll pull over and we'll run back up, and then we'll just keep drifting it until we don't catch a fish, and then we'll head on down to the next section.
Nice. Do you have a favorite fishing story, or a size of a fish that just something that sticks out into your memory? You talked about the one where the dry is coming under right off the riffle, and you counted it, and bam!
Yeah.
Other stories of fish or experiences that just really fill your brain?
Yeah, I've got one. This year it was just a really big fish, and honestly, we caught a little fish on this little nymph, you know. And the big fish came up and literally ate the little fish. It was a 29-inch brown trout, and he ate the little fish and just barely got hooked on his nose with that little nymph.
Really?
Yeah,
I have never
and-
seen
and-
that in trout. I've seen it with pike, but I've never
Yeah,
seen a
yeah.
trout take a trout that was hooked.
On the green, you'll see a lot of chasers. You'll be reeling in like a 16, 17-inch whitefish down on the C section, and you'll see a 20-some-inch brown trout come up and try to eat them.
Oh, my
On the
goodness.
ace, same, all of it. I mean, it was kind of weird this year. I saw a lot of fish chasing. It was. I mean, coming up to the top of the water and trying to smack them as
Aggressive.
you're trying to drag them across just to get the little guy in.
Yeah.
They come and just try to wallop them.
What are the main types of fish that you guys catch on the green?
The brown trout is the predominant fish in the river. We have plenty of rainbows, not as many browns, or not as many rainbows as browns, but plenty. And then we also have some whitefish in there. You've been known to catch a cutthroat here and there. Actually, this last year they put a bunch of little cutties in there. I think they said like 5,000 cutthroats in there, trying to get them going again. Maybe.
Wow.
I think the brown trout just kind of ate.
I was going to say that might be a good a bait fish for
Good
those
pattern.
browns.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we have some pike in there.
No kidding.
Yeah, some big pike. What else? I've known a couple guys caught some brook trout. I don't know where they came from. Maybe one of the little creek tributaries that come in. But yeah, we've definitely. I've seen some guys catch some brook trout. We have also other species like flannel mouth suckers, which you don't catch a ton of them, so they're kind of cool when you catch them.
Yeah.
I've got a cool picture of one of my guys, and it was a pretty decent sized one, and they have this big orange like yellow belly and
Wow.
big fins and this big sucker mouth on them. And then I had another one of my buddies this last year. They went a little bit further down on just a fun trip, and he ended up catching like a 30-some-inch pike minnow.
Wow.
Which is it's a pretty cool deal. Like it was huge, man. It was big. He thought it was a big brown trout, and he's like, "Oh, no way!" And then it's a big pike, which is still as cool.
When you see the joy, again, having had the pleasure to have been guided, and you and I are doing a trip this year, which I'm super excited about. Having gotten to do this a handful of times in my life, a good number, there's something that brings me back when you talk to the store, when you talk to the clients that you have, and they come back again and again. What are the stories that you hear? What do they really get behind it? Because yeah, we get fish, and that's really fun, but it's deeper than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a connection that you make with folks on the river. You're in a place that's like zero stress, zero outside world. It's just you're in the middle of nowhere. The phones usually don't even work for most of the river, right? And so you're just separated from everything, and you get to know each other. And then when you catch a bunch of fish, it just adds to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the connection between the guests on boat, because typically do you have two guests on a boat with you at a time?
Yeah.
And the connection that they make and the stories that they tell and that they share. Like I took my my stepdad on a trip this last year in Arizona. I was telling you about it when we were visiting, however many months ago when we were hanging out. And he just had the greatest time. We were catching bass in a lake in Arizona, and it was the connection he and I made that he still tells me to this day. I will never forget that. One of the best days of my life. Now that he's in his 80s, that it's precious time. Do you see a lot of that as a guide of what?
100%, yes. Yeah, I see a lot of guys come out with their fathers that are in their 70s and even 80s. I think the oldest gentleman that I fished with is like 92. And he just, that was in a line. He would just rip that rod all day long, never quit. And then you've got the other guys that sleep in between spots.
Yes.
But the bonds you see them make with each other and the time they get to spend with each other when, you realize it's not really a whole lot of time left,
Yes.
It's a special thing, and I get to share that with people. That's why I do it. Like, you get to share those moments with folks that, you know what I mean, they're going to remember forever.
Yeah, man, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
What is your favorite type of fishing? So in the world of fly fishing, there's a few things you can do. You can drift a fly on top of the water called dry fly fishing, where it's the fly is floating. The trout looks up and goes, ooh, that's a bug on the top I want to eat.
Yeah.
Then there's bugs underneath the water that could be wet flies or nymphs where they're coming out from the bottom. And then there's streamers that look like some bugs swimming through the water. Do you have a favorite that you like?
I mean, everybody loves the dry fly game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fireworks. It's like watching watching a fireworks show on the water.
It's so amazing. And even when you don't hit that fish, right? Like you get to watch him come up and see it, and it's so visual and interactive, even a big miss is almost as good as getting them to eat it, you know what I mean? And just watching him, and those fish out on the green, when they've seen a few bugs, they start getting pretty picky, and they'll sit there, and I've seen them, we just drift along with them for 10, 20 yards. They'll just watch that bug. They'll watch it.
They're just swimming beneath watching it?
Yeah, they'll watch it, and then they'll stop and do a circle, and then they'll take off, and then they'll come back again. And so one of the big things I always preach is don't set it until it's gone. You know what I mean? They'll come up and nip at it to see if you pull it on them, and
that gets hard, right? Like when you see something break the water, you get itchy to set that hook.
Landon, my son, he learned that trick pretty early, and I was like, I remember going out to the sea, and this big fish just come up and try to wallop that. I think we were using a big Amy's ant, and he missed it, and he set the hook, and I was like, you got to leave it. I go, that fish didn't actually take it. He was just testing you. So next one, if they come up like that, don't set it. And sure enough, he comes up and he just bumped it. And I leave it, and he swam off. He came back and just crushed it. And we end up landing. I think he was like a 21-incher.
Oh my gosh, so big.
Yeah, it was so cool. But having the fortitude and the willpower to just leave it while that fish is sitting there, you know what I mean?
It's so hard.
Especially if they come and touch it. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, the second the water opens, you're like, on it. It's got to be special for you as a fly fishing guide and a lover of the outdoors, just appreciating this resource that is fishing, to have your son, and both your sons really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Both Landon and Tanner are big fans.
Yep.
But for you to have that experience to fish with your kids, I know my sons, and one in particular, Connor and I would fish a lot, and it's their memories I will take with me for the rest of my life. So I can only imagine how that is for you, drifting with them and the whole thing.
I remember the first time I got, because Tanner just finished with the Marines, and right when he came back, it was on a 4th of July, and I know he was going to come out. I didn't know when, and I was out there. I think Landon was already out there, I'm trying to remember. All I know is Tanner wasn't supposed to be there yet. And then when I got home from my trip that day, I had Tanner peeking out behind me.
Oh, surprise.
Like, yeah. And we got to float the river and hang out. We did so much cool stuff. We had we went fishing, and Tanner I was more of a gear guy when Tanner was younger, and we did a lot of walleye fishing and stuff like that. We didn't get into hardcore fly fishing with him until later. And he was on down in the Marines for a while, so he didn't do a lot with me. And so we started out with nymphs, and Peanut was getting a little bored with it. He's not much of a nymph guy, and
that's your younger son.
Yes, and
he likes
Tanner
to dry.
Was like, we're just trying to get Tanner back into the game,
fish, into the rhythm.
And so we got a couple, and then at lunchtime he goes, I go, all right, we're going to switch to dries only. And this was right after Landon caught like a 24 right there off the bank while we were eating lunch. You know what I mean? It was like, this kid is unreal, So then Tanner's like, the pressure's on,
Yeah.
And we got back in the boat, started going, and it wasn't 20 yards before Tanner was hooked up on his first nice. And between there and the ramp, I think Tanner caught like 7 or 8, which after not doing it for a long time, and we were fishing little bugs too, like little caddis, like 18, size 20 caddis.
Which are small. The higher the number, for those of you watching, listening, the higher the number on a fly, the smaller it is. So a size 6 fly is a really big fly, and a size 22 is a really small fly.
Yeah, so... But yeah, it was cool watching him get his groove back on, and yeah, it was awesome spending that time with him. It's amazing. Again, that's what it's all about. It's really not about how many fish you catch, and I mean, for me, and everybody goes, "How many you get today?" I was like, after about 3 or 4, I don't even count anymore.
Right. That's what I find I'm doing too.
Yeah, it's
I caught some, or I caught a lot.
Yeah. We really beat them up, or we got a few, and it's more about just. For me, the journey getting there and being there, and the view and all that stuff is what it's more about,
Yes.
And then you take all that in, and the fish are going to come anyway.
Well, let's talk about this, kind of switch gears for a moment. We have to be thoughtful and mindful of our environment, of these beautiful animals, these creatures, and of the water and our surroundings. As a guide who sees this every day, talk about the importance of being a a conservationist in one sense, or at least a good steward of the land and the resources, and what that means not only for the health of your industry as a fly fishing guide, but for the health of those, again, those animals and us as humans who get to enjoy this whole process.
Yeah, it's just be respectful and leave it the way it was there before you got there. You know, we pack everything out. And all of us will pull over if we see water bottles. It doesn't matter where we're at, what we're doing. If we see water bottles on the bank, or you know what I mean, we'll pick them up and toss them. And we do that all day, every day, every time down the river. You know, and then once a year we have a Green River cleanup day where we all go out and, you know what I mean, we'll just walk the banks and whatnot and just pick up trash. And
so cool.
You know, and then our Trout Unlimited out there, we do a thing with COVID. We didn't have it for a couple of years. This last year we started it back up, was the single fly tournament, and we raise money. It's a big fundraiser for you know, taking care of the river and improvements and stuff like that.
Wow.
Which is cool. And that was my first one. And
have you noticed a change in people's behaviors in that regard over the years? Are people more or less sensitive towards taking care of the ecology and the things they see?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a lot more goes into keeping it clean. People really, for the most part, they keep it pretty clean out there. You're always going to have certain people who don't care about it as much as you do, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, you know, there's enough of us to make up for those, to make things clean and pick things up and take care of everything like it should be, and keep it nice for our next guest coming back down, you know?
Yeah.
We love the fish. We take care of them as best we can because we need to catch those fish again tomorrow, you know?
Right. That means you're not keeping them out of the water for 7 minutes to take a picture with them. You probably pinch down all the barbs on the hooks so that they don't stick into the fish as much.
Especially on the dries. The dries seem to be the hardest ones, like, because they just eat them hard.
Okay.
Out there we've got what I call a cicada hatch and then a Mormon cricket hatch. So we're fishing big dry flies, big foam stuff, and we like to smash those barbs down, especially on those. It seems like they just eat them down so hard, you know.
Yeah.
On some of them. But
have you noticed more women getting into the sport and or the guiding profession?
It's definitely the sport, just fishing. We have one guide on the river that's a lady. Mm-hmm. She works for one of the other places, and she catches them. She does good.
It's killing.
Yeah, she hangs in there right with everybody. So you know what I mean. So it's cool. But don't really. You know, we're all just guides. You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. And we all are out there for each other and take care of each other. But definitely a lot. It's cool to see a lot of ladies out on the rivers. You know, hopefully we get another big group I'm working on out there to come back and to come out and fish with us. A buddy of mine, his sister, she came out when I was one of my first years guiding, and we had a great trip, and they've been coming out ever since. And I guess she's got like a big ladies club, and I was like, well, you need to come out to the green and fish with us, man.
Bring him. That is awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So
have
awesome.
you gotten any big lessons, and not in fishing, but life lessons that you've learned from someone who's been on the boat with you? Like someone, just because you get to know them, they're sharing their story, what they do, how they do it. Has anyone that has been one of your clients ever said something that you're like, holy crap, that's amazing that you applied to your life, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of those, like little sayings that they use, you know. I don't know. I mean, some of them are kind of cliche, you know, teamwork making the dream work, but that's a big one, you know what I mean? Like, if we don't, like on a boat, we're all a team. I'm the captain, and you know what I mean? And if you listen and you help me out, we're all going to make it work together. You know what I mean? Because, like, if you're not listening to me, then I have to make adjustments to help, you know what I mean? And then it ends up taking you off your game or going a different route, you know what I mean? So just listening to those guides and like, because we know what we're talking about. And but another one is positive mental attitude, PMA, man. You know, it's like sometimes
it makes a difference in fishing, huh?
Yeah, you
lose your confidence, and fishing gets
rough
tough
on you. It's rough on you. So I try to keep it light and joke around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, we're just out there to have fun. I don't know. One of the most recent things is I had a couple older guys with me, and I had my son had his first baby this year or last year, and
she's so beautiful,
right?
by the way.
And I just, the guy's like, I go, I'm not even 50 yet, and I go, I'm too young to be a grandpa, and he goes, well, just be thankful you're not too old to be a grandpa.
There it is.
And I was like, you know what? Thank you and that's the kind of stuff they keep perspective, you know what I mean? Just having different thoughts and different folks in the boat. That's one of the things I remember that.
And what lessons has the river taught you? Has the experience, the fish, the river, what has that taught you?
For me, it's respect for the water is a big one. Don't ever take it for granted thinking it's just water, because it can change your life in a heartbeat. And the other thing is being in a hurry doesn't get you anywhere but in trouble. You know what I mean? I don't ever rush anything, because when you start rushing stuff, then bad things happen. And so whether it's just driving to the river that morning or driving home from the river, or trying to get to the next spot, you get different oar strokes and can make a big difference in a day. You know what I mean? Just roll with it, pay attention, and that's the big thing, is just not being in a hurry and soaking things up.
That's beautiful.
It's we're only on this earth for a short time, you know what I mean, comparatively, and so don't sweat the small stuff. Just roll with it. Don't get in a hurry, and just go with the flow.
I love it. Literally the flow. Flow of the river.
Yes, I don't. Being in a drift boat on the river is just an amazing thing. And actually making a living doing it, it's kind of no words really.
So what about someone who would be interested in becoming a guide? Is there a certain temperament, a certain set of skills that this person should have? What should they know if someone were to be like, man, I'd like to be a guide? What makes for a successful guide?
Oh gosh, you can they have schools that teach you how to row and how to read water and stuff like that. I was lucky enough really to kind of work my way into a place where I could learn on the go. I knew boats anyway already, so I just had to learn how to fish with guests, right? And then that's the hardest part, is just learning how to fish with guests. That's the thing, and then getting along and not taking things too serious. I see there's a lot of guys that are just kind of grumpy,
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah,
I did have one.
You can find some pretty salty guys out there, and I just won't be salty. I can't be a salty guy. As a matter of fact, that's almost to a detriment, because sometimes I kind of just take it too easy, and people don't. Sometimes people respond. Some people like grumpy guys. Yeah, beat me up. Tell me what to do. You know what I mean? And I was like, sorry, man. I'm just not that kind of guy.
Yeah, not your guy.
But we always still have fun. But yeah, that's the temperament, is just dealing with different personalities and being able to still have fun and go down the river, because you're not going to gel with every single guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just try and have fun and roll with it.
Is there a sense, any sense that you love to fish, you love to catch fish, you love to be in the position of casting? Does it lose anything when you're helping me to do that and your rod's not on the water? Like, is there something that a fisherman can't always make a good guide if they can't give up that desire to feel? They say the tug is the drug, right?
Right.
So if they can't feel the tug and they're helping someone else feel that, are there some guys that aren't cut out for that?
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm not one of those guys. Like I said, I love helping, getting people from point A to point B, and when they succeed, I say that means I did my job. You know what I mean? I love watching other people catch fish. People ask me that question a lot, actually, because in the grand scheme of things, I'm catching those fish with you. Because if I don't have my boat positioned correctly and I'm not on the right drift, we're not going to catch fish, right? It's my job to put you in the line where those fish are, and then teach you how to get that fly or whatever it is we're getting there, where to put it and how to get it in their face, So when all that comes together, it's a team thing that is just amazing. I love it. Yeah, I love to catch fish on my own too, but I love rowing people into fish. And especially when you call it and you're like, okay, this is a good spot, and okay, we should get one. There's a rock right there. Just give me a big mend up. Now go left. You know what I mean? And then boom, that bobber goes down or that fish comes up and smacks it. That's awesome. the reward right there,
That is my reward. Even hearing you describe it makes me happy.
Yeah.
So ladies, guys, if you're looking to become a fishing guide, man, check it out, enjoy it. I have one more question for you. This has flown by. It's so amazing to me that I could talk about this subject for hours with you.
Yeah.
Have you had one piece of advice that you've either learned along the way or that someone gave you that is a fundamental piece of who you are or what life is about for you? And what would that be?
Oh, geez, that was a deep one. I don't know.
Yeah, we just went into deep water right there.
Yeah. You brought the whole life thing in it, I mean, I guess I just try to run my life or live my life the way I run a boat down the river, honestly. You know what I mean? Take it easy, be careful, but don't be afraid to take risks either, you know what I mean? You got to go for it sometimes. It's kind of, life's like the river, man, for me.
I love that. Life's like the river.
Yeah, go with the flow, man. And like I said, have a healthy respect for it. Treat it right, and it'll treat you right,
Oh, Lance Dutton, this has been an amazing, amazing time for me. If someone wanted to reach out to you, they wanted to learn more about you as a guide, having you guide them, connecting with Flaming Gorge. Roaring Fork is, we're going up to Aspen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Flaming Gorge. How is the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, basically just look up Flaming Gorge Resort on the internet, Facebook, wherever. They're on Instagram, Facebook. They do all my booking, If you want to contact me, they can give you my number, you know what I mean? And then we can chat. Usually people will say, okay, I'm coming out in 2 weeks. Like they'll call, and can you have Lance call me so that we can talk about what's going on and what I need to bring and so on and so forth. And I just get on the horn, call you up, and get you ready.
Well, I tell you what, I am ready now. I'm ready right now. I know our trip is scheduled later this year, but I am ready, man. You have brought a great, calming, soothing energy about a really cool topic today. And I know for anybody that has any interest in the outdoors or fishing, this was a great episode. I'm sure they're going to share it. So thank you for making a difference. Guides make a difference in people's lives and in the life of the river and the fish. So thank you for that. And thanks for joining me.
No, thank you. Great to be here and given a chance to kind of put out what's out there,
I love it so much. And for those of you watching, listening, thanks for joining us for another episode. I hope that you'll remember that today and every day you do have the opportunity to go make a difference.